Hello, everyone. Thanks for jumping on a Beauty Behind the Brand podcast with me today. It is actually going to be another solo episode. And actually, this episode is going to be a little bit of the same thing, but regarding our product line business. Yes, I own two businesses, and yes, one's a spa and one's a product line. They're both very different. I always say I have two children, and they're each very much the same, but different at the same time. But they still need my attention, and they need different type of attention, if that makes sense. But let's dive into this episode. I think there's going to be so many great takeaways. Whether you are a spa owner and want to maybe get into like a private label line, start your own skincare line, your own lash line, any of the things. And let me tell my story, kind of how I got to where I am today. So like our last solo episode, I'm going to go through some questions that our listeners had regarding actually our product line with Miskoka Beauty and how I got started and where we are today. I'll try to be as in-depth as possible. I really want to be transparent with our listeners. I think that's the whole point of having a podcast, is having transparency. Also, beauty behind the brand, that's what we're all about, is telling the raw truth behind our Instagram pages. It might look all fluffy and perfect and amazing. I'm going to really dive a little bit deeper into this episode of what we do and why we do what we do with Miskoka Beauty. So our first question today was, can you tell us about the inspiration behind starting Miskoka Beauty and what idea led you to where you are today within the industry? Now, that's a great question to start this episode off, because I literally had no idea what I wanted to do within career. I was not very good in school at all growing up. Really struggled with reading and writing. If you've listened to other podcasts I've personally been a guest on, that's something I really empathize on. Is I'm dyslexic. I am not good in school, but I definitely had the gift to gab. I enjoyed chatting with people. Always super athletic when it came to sports, competitive. That is definitely one of my strong suits, as well as one of my weak points as well. Being an entrepreneur as well as just a female as well, there's ups and downs with that, whether it's career and or being competitive. But it kind of drove me to figure out what I wanted to do. And I tried all different things. And I always say this to people when they don't know what they want to do post-secondary. I personally had not applied to college or university because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I kind of thought it was a waste of time and money. And it kind of led me to try different things. So when I was 17, I actually tried to get my real estate license. I did the first phase and realized, you know what, it is a lot harder than I expected. It's not just showing really nice houses and kind of what they show, like Selling Sunsets now on that TV show. So that ended up changing my career path there. Totally pivoted. I actually got my chainsaw license and thought I wanted to work for Hydro One in forestry. And then I actually got a message from one of my really close friends asking about what I thought of beauty pageants. And I kind of was like, I don't know, whatever. Like, I don't really have a talent. I'm not going to dance and sing. I didn't really know what to do. Anyways, I thought, you know what, this is an opportunity. I talked to my parents about it and they were like, do it. What do you have to lose? You might as well try this. And it was just about a few hours away from our hometown here. So I jumped in with 2 feet, did not expect to win, just wanted to make some friendships and connections. And I actually ended up finding one of my closest friends through this opportunity with the pageant. I actually ended up doing hurdles on stage as one of my talents. And from that point on, getting my nails done, getting my hair done, getting my makeup done, just kind of the glitz and glam of it. My mom was a hairdresser, or still is a hairdresser, and I just knew I wasn't into the hair world. That's all I really knew about beauty. But aesthetics, like all the other things, I was obsessed with. Never really had the opportunity of getting my nails done or anything until this pageant world came to me. So definitely being a small town girl, total tomboy growing up. But this was a whole other side of me that I almost felt like a chameleon, where I could be that rough tomboy, like snowmobiling, doing all the things that Northern Ontario girl, but then I could also put on a pageant dress and walk on a stage in Miss Universe Canada. So I really dove into the beauty industry. That would have been just after 2012, I guess it was. And then I applied to a school, a private aesthetic school that is no longer around anymore, Rinaldi School of Aesthetics, but it was like absolutely mind-blowing in the sense of small classrooms, so intimate. It didn't matter if I couldn't read or write, because to be honest, it's such a hands-on experience being an esthetician. And as long as I could read and somehow understand what the biology and all of that was. I had someone being able to help me with my tests, but I was able to do it on my own, and I actually graduated with 90%. My mom thought I was cheating the entire time while at beauty school, but that's how it all started. I feel like it was something I actually was super passionate about and absolutely fell in love with. I dove right in, and that's how I started in the beauty industry. From there, opening a spa and then creating a product line. That was kind of where I never thought it would go. I thought, oh yeah, being an entrepreneur from years of generations in our family, but then having the spa for a few years and then struggling to find good quality products. I had talented techs, but I needed good quality products, and that's where it all kind of revolved into becoming the owner and founder of both Miskoka Aesthetics and Miskoka Beauty. So that was a long answer to this number one question, but just to give you a little background, in case you've been listening to this podcast for a few years now, I feel like this is something that I feel like I'm usually interviewing everyone else, but not everyone knows my story as well. So our next question is, what makes Miskoka Beauty unique in the beauty industry? And how do you differentiate your brand from other beauty brands? This is a great question. We get this a lot when we're pitching to distributor companies as well as wholesalers and even schools too. We do education with beauty colleges as well. So something that I always, and I'm usually the one personally as the founder doing these like pitch decks or conversations with buyers. And something that I always say is, I'm an esthetician by trade. I created these products because I saw that there was a hole in the market. A lot of these other companies, from my understanding anyways, a lot of them are created not by someone who's actually working in the treatment room. They don't have people actually physically training with the product. I know quite a few lash lines actually in Canada that are made by lash techs. Shout out to them because they are literally rocking this lash world right now because they understand the need that the techs need during their appointments as well as what's best for their client. The other thing that I think is growing up in Muskoka, that's why I wanted to call it Miskoka Beauty with M-I, because I was Miss Muskoka, but I'm all about the beauty within nature and really bringing that into the beauty world. We keep our products as clean as possible, low fumes with our glues and adhesives, with the tech in mind as well as the client in mind, because for myself, I was lashing for years with a glue that probably shouldn't have even been on the market. I developed allergies. I would wake up every day with my head just so congested. So those type of things, I really, really express how I feel in the beauty world and working in the industry personally. And just being transparent and honest. Sometimes too, a big thing when you don't know an answer to a question is, let me get back to you. I want to make sure I get you the right answer. We've had that quite a few times with some of our distributors asking like, oh, what is it comparable to this product? Or what about this company? Where do you stand with that? And it's hard because you want to focus on yourself as the business, but then at the same time, you also kind of need to do that research of these other brands. But always be honest upfront. I feel like that's something that has gotten me a lot of our deals within our Canadian market is just on honesty and being transparent with the buyers and or clients. Sometimes clients are asking about different ingredients and, oh, will this be a sensitivity or is this derivative of this ingredient? I always say, let me get back to you. I want to hear right from our manufacturers to make sure. So that's something, if you're looking at a beauty line, just really be honest with your clients. Don't have anything hidden. Make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. It's kosher with whatever health board you're going with. And yeah, dot all your I's and cross all your T's. Next question. What are some of the challenges you face when starting Miskoka Beauty, and how did you overcome them? Oh gosh, where do we even start? The challenges. So personally, I was working at the spa full time. I was working like pretty much 8 to 8 all the time. I remember not even giving myself a lunch after working 12 hours a day. Like it was nuts. But we were a new business. We were only 2 years. We launched in we opened the spa in 2015. And I just knew there was more for us as a business. And I knew that I wanted more than just a spa. I know I say just a spa, but it was something that I needed to do. It was like, I don't know, it was like in me that I needed to create this product line. And I just thought like, oh my gosh, only Kylie Jenner does product lines and only the J-Lo does product lines. Like I'm thinking of all these celebrities, But then I thought, you know what? If they can do it, why can't I? Because they're celebrities, right? That they don't have, they have all the people that they hire to work what they need to do. But then I thought, you know what? Maybe this is something that I can do. So I started, going on Google, figuring things out. And the biggest thing for me was actually figuring out my priorities, figuring out, okay, I need to step back from like being at the spa as much as I am and being able to pivot myself into the sales operations of this product line. Before I literally did not take any money or funding to fund both of my business. I did like a $5,000 grant through the Small Business Center, but I actually self-funded both my businesses. And that was something that I'm super grateful is I don't owe any debts for both companies other than during COVID. That was a whole other thing, as all of you know. But it was one of those things where I needed to figure out the finances that I needed to borrow from the spa basically to fund Miskoka Beauty. And that was the trickiest part of knowing where to put my money. I felt like all the SKU numbers, trying to figure out what was going to make sense, figuring out how many quantities, like some of these buyers, like you have to buy up to 1,000 units per order, which is like insane. I remember placing my first order that was more money than I made in the entire year, putting it on a credit card and hoping that the products would even show up. Like there's just so many things that we overcame during this process. I remember a lot of my buyers are across seas, so I'm being on opposite time zones, literally working a 12-hour day, quickly shoving food in my mouth, and then being on my phone all night to literally do ingredient checks, talk to manufacturers, talk to chemists, and figuring out what we needed to do to keep this ball rolling in the sense of creating this product line. I look back at those years and handing out literally on the weekend, handing out samples, going to Lash events, going to the ESI spa shows. Like it was just nonstop. And I almost felt like COVID was that break that we needed in order to reset and really for the spa to be on pause so then we could blow up Miskoka Beauty. It just took off, I would say, as soon as I figured out that priority in the sense of my time. But yeah, I would say the biggest thing I overcame was definitely the time and figuring out where I needed to put my time and my focus in order to bring that business to the next level. Because if I stayed working those 12-hour days, I'd be so burnt out and it wouldn't be what it is today. That's definitely my best suggestion for anyone looking to start a product line. But make sure you've got that vision and you run with it. Don't be nervous to try it. Order some samples, just test it out and you'll kind of get this vibe of what you feel within the products. Ask family and friends. I was so grateful to have such a great team at the spa that they could test and give me their honest opinion. And getting samples, that's actually another thing to overcome as well, was finding the correct manufacturers. With starting a product line, there is a lot of money that is wasted in the sense of samples. So I would order, oh my gosh, so many samples of lashes, so many samples of glue. And out of 10 of them, you have to pay duties, shipping, a lot of the things. They would give you free samples, but you have to pay for shipping and duties and all that fun stuff. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I just spent how much money and I don't like any of these samples. So when you do find that supplier and you fall in love with them, you have a great connection, the products are on par every single time you order, communication, everything's there. Treat them like your best friend because they're going to help your business
Miskoka Beauty
grow.
wants to thank everyone for listening to our podcast. And we're offering 15% off your first bottle of Lash and Brow Serum by Miskoka Beauty. Now, if you haven't heard or if you haven't tried or seen before and afters or even seen reviews, you're definitely going to want to head to miskoka.com and click onto our Lash Serum to actually read some of the reviews because this product is unbelievable. It will enhance your natural length and your brows as well, making them more full and absolutely gorgeous. So head over to miskoka.com and type in promo code Beauty Brand Podcast 15. Once again, that's Beauty Brand Podcast 15. Happy shopping and happy lashing.
As a founder, what has been your proudest moment or accomplishment with Miskoka Beauty so far? There's so many, but I feel like the biggest one for me would probably be when we went somewhat viral on TikTok. So this was the middle of the pandemic. I was borderline depressed because who knew what was going on? No one knew. And we were like literally no income coming in. We were spending money. We were trying different things. Nothing was working. We had just launched our lash serum, our lash and brow growth serum, which is like enhancing serum. It was growth serum back then. Then we changed it to enhancing serum when we were going through all the Health Canada stuff. And so we had launched this lash serum in January of 2021, I guess it was. And I was like, oh gosh, is this going to work? There was so many of them on the market. I was like, okay, let's just throw this out there and see what happens. Anyways, so that was in January. In the summer, I believe, because I remember I was at my cottage when all these emails came in, and it would have been, I don't know, I'm guessing like June maybe. It was beginning of summer, or even maybe May. And I remember waking up in the morning and my phone was blowing up with orders. And I was like, what the heck happened? Right? Because we were experimenting with all this stuff on TikTok, Google ads, seeing what hit. Anyways, we had sponsored an event in the States for a body positive women entrepreneur, this great event that was going on, the Rose Retreats. And I absolutely just fell in love with this idea. And I was like, we will send samples to you. We will send you anything you need. Anyway, so the woman who organizes this event, Mick, some of you might be following her on Instagram or know her because I see a lot of messages when she reposts our stuff. And she had posted about our lash serum. And we did not pay her to do this. We did not like push her since, we're sending and sponsoring. She just did this video out of the goodness of her heart because she loved our products that much. She has like over 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram. Anyways, whatever she did worked. She did like a side-by-side video of her lashes before she started using Miskoka Beauty and then after. And we got over, I think it was like 100 orders within like less than 24 hours. And for us, I don't think we were getting 100 orders in like a month at that point. And it just kind of put us on the map, especially with the US market and the Canadian market and the beauty industry, because no one could wear lash extensions at that point. Well, unless they were doing illegal lash extensions, And I felt like with lash lifts and tints, people couldn't get those done, but anyone and everyone was obsessed with this lash serum. As soon as she posted it, it just blew up. Anyways, and then from that point on, she just kept doing it organically, and it really gave us a great following. It was a pivotal point for me as a founder saying, you know what, maybe we did hit the jackpot with this product. We've never had that much traction on any of our products before. We also were pivoting to consumer base versus like professional line for spa and salon. So anyone could purchase the lash serum online. And that's where it was kind of like that aha moment. And as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you've had those moments before. And that's when I was like, we're on to something. But think about this. We launched Miskoka Beauty in 2019. So it took us probably 2 years or more to finally start making revenue. We weren't even making money still. We were just trying and testing things out. Like we were not making money at that point at all as a brand within over 2 years. And I was pretty much working at full time as well. Kind of during the pandemic, putting like the amount of hours and time. So it was so rewarding to see someone with that amount of following just organically post about us. And then we had influencers from that point on reaching out to us and just wanting product in order to do like as a collab post, sharing. We work with some great companies, Modern Collective out of Toronto, who help us a lot with influencer marketing. But that was definitely something that changed our company forever. And I'm so grateful for Mick on so many levels, even just asking us to be sponsors every year for the Rose Retreat. So big shout out to her. She is definitely one of our number one fans of the product since day one. So whenever she needs a new bottle, she knows she's getting a free one.
Peaches, word of mouth marketing for Squarespace stores. Make more sales with Peaches Squarespace plugins. Get the number one referral and affiliate software for your e-commerce store. Everyone wants to boost sales and reach new customers via affiliates or referrals marketing programs.
Word of mouth marketing is the best and most powerful, low cost, and way to grow your business online organically. All you need to do is get the right software to help your customers talk about you and influencers promote you and reward them for doing so. I will put my referral link down below. So our next question is, the beauty industry is constantly evolving. How do you stay ahead of trends, consumers, and preferences to keep your brand relevant and successful? That is tricky because we all know the beauty industry changes so much and so fast. To be honest, it is probably the hardest thing that we go through as a brand, is just trying to stay on top of all the new trends and seeing what other people are doing, but without trying, I don't know how to explain it, without copycatting. I feel like it's one of those things where sometimes disconnecting from social is one of the best things you could do to come up with some fresh ideas. Because I feel like Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, all the things flood you with so many ideas of what everyone else is doing. But sometimes you just need that moment away from those things to unplug and think more authentically of what your brand is and who you are, and bring it back to the basics. So for myself, I try to think of essentials. I'm a very basic person. I'm very much like a minimalist. I just try to think of the basics and what will make people's lives so much easier. So for me, I was thinking, lash serum, that's so easy. You literally put it on. I put it beside, I literally have mine right beside my toothbrush and toothpaste right now. So every night before I go to bed, I put it on, and it's just part of my routine now. It's so easy. It makes such an impact in my life. I don't have to worry about my lashes and brows. It's just like that one step that is part of my beauty routine. So I try to think of things that aren't too complex, and then how they can make people's lives better and that they're going to use every day. As a product line, this is something else I would give you this advice if you're looking to do a product line, is something that people are going to keep purchasing. We learned this the hard way. I felt like with our actual lash company, with some of our products, people will have them forever and not have to replace them. And to be honest, those are the products that we do not sell much of, because once they've purchased it once, they don't have to repurchase again. But those reoccurring revenue purchases, like a lash serum, like a lash glue, lash trays, all the things, like think of your shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, like all the things. I feel like those are the products that change the industry. And hair tools, I feel like that's something else that's tricky. Is I actually know another entrepreneur that did really well selling hair dryers, whether it was professional and or at home. But I feel like he always said it was so hard because it's a one-time purchase. Like I think of some of the hair, like my mom, for example, has had the same blow dryer for how many years, right? So try to think of something that people need to repurchase, like perfume, things like that. So I'll just leave that in kind of the back of your mind if this is a podcast that you're listening to quite often and wondering, maybe I want to start a product line. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Can you discuss the importance of sustainability with the environment, responsibility in the beauty industry, and how Miskoka Beauty incorporates these principles into products and practices? This is a great question. I feel like Untamed Artistry, big shout out to them out in BC, they have changed the industry with sustainable products for the lash industry itself, with all of their packaging. They've done an incredible job. Something that we've started doing actually is thinking more of recyclables as well. I know we use our lash trays a lot at the spa to re-gift to our clients with like a spoolie in it, a lash after card, that type of thing. But I feel like that's something that's been going on forever. With our new lash lift products, if you haven't used them and you're a big brow and lash girl, these are definitely the products that you're going to want to use. They actually are the same as our sachet products, but we have put them in a pump, and they're all air sealed, so you have no waste of product, but it's 100% recyclable because there's no residue left in it. With the sachets, you actually had to throw them in the garbage every time because they weren't cleaned properly, and there was leftover perm solution in them that would expire, that you could no longer use. It was a lot of waste of product. So that's something that we've definitely put on the mind of consumers, is this is a more environmentally friendly product. It's actually safer for a lot of your clients with the fumes, etc. Something else too that I find with our packaging is we're trying to do less packaging. Even with our boxes, things like that. When we go to mail product out, I'm really mindful of how much bubble wrap. We barely ever use bubble wrap. We use our custom boxes, but they're recyclable as well. Even our little like bubble mailers that we use, I really try to make sure that they're like packaged tightly when they're not having to take too much room when mailing and shipping as well. And I just find too, I try to do a bulk orders to ship everything at once, depending where it's going. If it's going to our distributors, I try to do one large box instead of multiple boxes. Even like I said, bubble wrap and packaging, I feel like I'm very basic when it comes to that. Also too, it is an expense for the business. When you think of how much bubble wrap and packaging is to mail out, I don't think that the average consumer thinks of expenses like that. Even thank you cards, printables, that kind of thing. We're very limited on what we do mail out. One of the only things that I do usually do is our little thank you bundles, as well as a lash and brow enhancing brochure card. But we try to keep it as basic and simple as possible. And I think that also makes us conscious of what we're printing, and the weight, etc., for shipping and mailing. So those are just some of the takeaways for business side, as well as environment as well, and the responsibility we have in the beauty industry, because there is so much waste. And even at the spa, we are very mindful of how much waste and products we're throwing out. We try to use literally every ounce of product that's left in a container, whether it's wax or cream, that type of thing. Clean it out properly, make sure it's getting recycled. More reusable things that are obviously approved through Health Canada. So there's lots of things. I would love to hear more of maybe what you're doing at your spa and or product line that makes you more responsible within being sustainable for the environment as well. Next question, what are some of the key considerations you take into account when developing new beauty products with Miskoka Beauty? How do you ensure that your products meet the needs and expectations of your consumers? This is a loaded question. I feel like it's one of those things that I am fortunate that I do have a spa so we can test out products. We have multiple technicians, like we have I guess like 10 technical estheticians that we have that we can test product with, as well as contract workers, etc., and clients. I feel like we have such a good, honest base of clients that if something isn't working or their feedback is negative, I'm able to go back to the drawing board. We also have some great makeup artists and other technicians that are friends of mine that I can send them product. They can let me know that their opinion, even when it comes to packaging, I feel like that's been a really fun part of our business. We've partnered with some great designers out of Toronto, a husband and wife team. They have done incredible things for our line. I looked back at what our product line used to be to what it is now. The colors, the dimensions, everything about it just looks so much more clean, fresh, and exactly what the vision was supposed to be. But some of the things I find with the product line is kind of similar to the questions that were asked before, is finding something that someone's going to use every day. I find with the lash serum, glue, like products that they're going to reuse over and over every day, if not a couple times a week. But there is so many things that you can develop within the beauty world. Like we were talking about, like hair tools, shampoo, conditioner, spray. It's really unlimited. Even we were thinking about too, like skincare lines, like there is so many things you can do within the industry. And I feel like it can be very overwhelming, but figure out kind of that niche, what your thing is. Like personally, I was an esthetician, but like nail tech and lash tech were my two go-tos. I've never really been like the type of girl for skincare, but now I'm like changing our spa more into a medi spa, so it's kind of forced me into doing more of that, which is now kind of gravitating us to possibly a skincare line. But it's what kind of skincare line, right? So there's so many ways to see kind of those testers of, what sells best at your spa? What are clients coming in and asking for? What kind of facials are selling the best? But really listen. Don't, as an entrepreneur, I feel like we want to be entrepreneurs so we can do what we want to do. You're not going to be a very successful entrepreneur if that's the way you think. You need to listen to your consumers. If your clients are coming in and constantly wanting a specific cream, but you're selling them something else, they're not going to come back to you. If you're selling them the opposite of what they actually want, you're selling them a cleanser, but really they want a cream, vice versa. So listen to your consumers, listen to what's kind of not going to go out of style. Think of something like even a product, like it can be very niche, but think of a product that's going to be timeless, that people are going to be talking about for years, something that someone cannot live without. They're going to be telling their friends, their family, and do some research. Think of different things like the history of the beauty world and kind of where things have come to where they could be. We're in $1 billion industry. I feel like we're recession proof, other than pandemic proof, I always say. But it's something that I feel like with e-commerce and everything, we are unbeatable. The beauty industry is growing more than ever. I've said this multiple times on the podcast before. I feel like it's like our time to shine now in the industry, and it's time to take those next steps in your business. It's time to really level yourself up on the next things you want to do. And whether maybe you're not even in the beauty industry, but you just enjoy listening to this podcast, what are the next things you can do to kind of elevate your life and enjoy the things in life and enjoy your work? That's what I like. I can say fiance now. Fiance and I think about that all the time. We both are entrepreneurs, but we absolutely love what we do. So just keep that in mind when creating a product line or a business and figuring out what kind of level you want your clients to be, whether you want to be sold in a professional like spa, or you want to be sold maybe at like a Shoppers Drug Mart or a Walmart, the Bay. Think of different ways that you can see your product and what kind of that ideal customer is. I've been reading some really great entrepreneurial books. I feel like we should almost do a podcast just talking about books, or maybe even on our Instagram, some of my go-tos and authors, and talking about your ideal client and customer. You can say no to clients and customers. I feel like that's something people are so nervous of. I've had to say no to clients. I've had to fire clients. I've had to tell people that they can't come back. And that's okay, because really, do you want more of that client? You're going to gravitate, or they're going to be referring people. So you want the good people. You want the good customers. So really make sure that that ideal customer that you have is going to be one of your best sellers, one of your top clients that are going to support you. They're going to tell everyone about you. So make sure when you're doing that vision board of your products, make sure you're also thinking of that client in mind, and maybe even what they look like, what they do for a career, where they would be shopping, that type of thing. Because a lot of times with vision boards, when creating products, kind of that business plan, I guess, people aren't talking about their ideal customer and the expectation of that customer. So I hope that answers that question, because it is a very hard thing to break down, is having that perfect customer and that reoccurring customer that's going to be your biggest cheerleader. So think of it that way, and I hope that helped. So the next question is, can you share any exciting upcoming projects or plans for Miskoka Beauty has in store for the future? So a few things I have been thinking about, and we're kind of in the works of right now. So the past couple of years, we were really, really, really strict about getting all of our stuff kosher with Health Canada, making sure we've gotten all of our stamps of approvals, our barcodings, all the things, formulations, all of that stuff's done. Now we're going into FDA and European and global production. So basically with that, it's something that I feel like I've kind of talked about actually with 3 Ships with Laura. We were kind of talking about that in that episode regarding all the things that people don't realize to launch a product. I think of creating the product is probably the easiest thing. It's getting it licensed and stamped, the barcoding, descriptions, making sure even your title of your product is okay to be selling on the market. For example, like our lash serum, we wanted to call it Miskoka Beauty Lash and Brow Growth Serum. We had to change that to Miskoka Beauty Lash and Brow Enhancing Serum, because you cannot say in a title what the product does in description of promising that it's going to do those things, which I did not know that. I have learned so much in the product business, and I wish I knew these things. So that's obviously why I'm telling you during this podcast, because it'll save you a lot of time and a lot of money. But we personally use a company that does it's called Q&R, and it does all of our licensing through our products. It helps us a lot with like what we can do and what we can't do within the product line. And they also help us kind of go through each ingredient and really make sure that Health Canada knows the percentage and why it does what it does and why we have it in that product. But with the FDA, it is so much more. And with European approvals, it's so much more. I thought it was going to be easy breezy because Health Canada standards are quite high. But for example, when we're going to be selling globally, even the languages, how we're going to fit everything on a piece of paper for people to understand and be able to read it. Even the spacing on the boxing, where like the cautions are to what the ingredients, like all the spacing needs to be different on the actual box itself. We've done quite a bit with the FDA right now, but we're also going a little bit more into the European approvals too, talking about preservatives, which preservatives are kosher, which ones we can keep in, which ones we have to take out, depending on shelf life. Clinical studies, we're working on some, going with dermatologist approved. We're trying to get stamps for that. Even looking into like being bee certified, vegan, like all it, the list goes on. So basically my goals for the future are to be able to, with our lash serum specifically, because it's our bestseller, is having it sold to professional beauty stores internationally, beyond shelves of any, like even a Cosmoprof would be unbelievable. That would be like, I'd be completely satisfied with that for the rest of my life. So that's kind of where we're going. And I want to really put Miskoka Beauty on the map. I feel like we've really cornered the Canadian market. We've gotten basically all the distributors we want. And they're coming to us wanting to do business, which is so rewarding. I feel like all the times in sales calls I've done over the years and got no's, and now they're like, oh, I see this company's carrying our product. Oh, I see this is, and they're wanting to bring us on. So out of a lot of, like, I think we have 5 or 6 distributors as of right now, and a lot of them came to me wanting to bring our products on, which in itself is just so rewarding that we were on the right track. We've done the marketing, we've done the acrylic displays because we know we're going to be around for a long time. So yeah, I kind of almost listening to our podcast and listening to all the connections we've made too. I feel like sometimes I haven't really had a chance to express our business, and I haven't been interviewed on a podcast recently either, but looking at how far you've come too, I feel like that's something, looking ahead is always super exciting and where we're going to go in the next few years, but also looking at how far we have come since 2019. Miskoka Beauty was basically an idea for a year since 2018, and trying to figure out what we were going to call it, what our brand mission was. Yeah, something luxury but affordable, because that's what we needed at our spa, for example. So I feel like that's something that's super important, staying true to those mission statements day in and day out, as well as what we're telling our distributors and beauty suppliers at the end of the day. So yeah, big things coming. Yeah, we're just, as Danny always says, this is the calm before the storm. We're just kind of waiting for things. I feel like it's kind of calm right now because we're in between projects and we've got all the onboarding pretty much flawless in the sense of distributors and wholesalers, but now it's coming. Big things are coming. I'm so excited to see where the next few years take us. We're already in some franchises here in Canada, but yeah, if we're blowing up into the States and in international stores, I might need an actual warehouse at this point. So big things coming. So our last question is, as a founder and an entrepreneur, what advice do you have for inspiring entrepreneurs who are interested in starting their own business in the beauty world and or business in general? So I feel like this question is a loaded question because there were so many little tidbits I kind of said within this podcast, but I think just believing in yourself, I feel like that's so cliche, but believing in yourself and knowing that this isn't going to fail. Thinking positive, talking to yourself positive, surrounding yourself with positive people who believe in you, but also honest people. I feel like that's something else that's very important, is having someone who's honest and is going to tell you the truth, but is willing to make you kind of challenge yourself to make sure that it is what you want. I feel like that's why John and I work so well together, in the sense of it being totally separate businesses, but we're always bouncing ideas back and forth from each other, and he's always challenging me and I'm always challenging him. Why are you doing that? Or why is this way? But always wake up and try to be thankful for every opportunity you have. Try to not set limitations for yourself. There was actually an interview with Steve Jobs I was listening to a little while ago. This is like a way throwback of him in his early days, and being nervous to call people and ask for a job or ask questions. It was a school project he was working on, he was saying, and he actually ended up getting an internship with this specific company, and he looked the guy's number up in the phone book and just gave him a call. And I always feel like that's something that has come a long way in my industry as well as my everyday, is even the podcast is a great example of that. I remember emailing people, founders who have always admired for years, like Kimber James from Borboleta and a couple other huge names that I always admired. And I just sent them an email. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're going to say no, or they're not going to reply. And I feel like it's almost like an honor for them to be asked these questions. Even for myself, I have people ask me questions all the time about entrepreneurship, especially having the podcast now, complete strangers reaching out. And I'm always so grateful and flattered for those opportunities that someone took the chance to do that. And even same thing, if you are going to ask someone a question or an input or even a connection through a connection, that is something networking, you cannot put a price on that. But just put yourself out there. You never know what's going to happen. If you told me when I was like in grade 12, not knowing what the heck I was going to do in the industry, basically teachers looking down on me in the sense I wasn't going to become anything. And now we're going to be a global brand, and hopefully the next couple of years in selling to beauty supply stores and beauty professionals across the world. That to me is something I never thought was possible, especially even let alone even just owning a brick and mortar spa location at the age of 20. I never knew, like we're going into our 8th year in November. I never knew that was going to happen. I remember so many times just being so down and upset with myself, not letting the little things get to you. Just try to think of the big picture at the end of the day, and really think of every day as a moment. Before you go to bed, think about all the things that you did do in that day and what you're proud of, and being grateful for that. So I am so grateful, on the finishing note, of all of you listening to these podcasts, giving us the feedback that we need to make this a better podcast every week. And especially these solo episodes, I have fun with these. I feel like I could obviously talk forever because that's just me, but I feel like it's also a nice way for you to get to know the host, myself, and get to know a little bit more about what I do on a day-to-day basis and why beauty behind the brand became what it is today. So thank you so much for every episode you listen to, every download, even some of the guests. A lot of you have sent us guests that you want to hear their stories on our Instagram. People have actually been reaching out, wanting to be on the podcast. So big things coming. I think we're definitely getting the momentum with the podcast as well. Like Danny and I said, we are getting the most amount of downloads in the past couple, well, even just the past couple episodes, to be honest. It's on a great momentum, and I can't thank all of you enough for that. So thank you so much, everyone. Hope you have the great rest of your week, and we'll chat soon.